So here I am freshly washed and all set to talk to you about Virginia Beach. But before I go ahead and do that, you might be wondering what's going on with the background here. I'm at my friend Michelle's house. She asked me to rabbit and cat sit for her. So I am feeding her rabbit and her cat, and they are two of the most adorable animals I've ever seen. So I'll show you pictures at the end. Let's get into the history of Virginia Beach and the fun that I had while I was down there. So before we get into the history of Virginia Beach, let's talk about Virginia Beach now. Virginia Beach is known for its kind of laid back and sort of beachy vibes, especially during the summertime. Now, how I know that is because I had a group of personal tour guides. Benjamin and Jillian were able to show me all around Virginia Beach. And we started at this place called Wave Riders. And across from Wave Riders is a skate park where people can go and kind of take lessons and learn how to skate safely. The next place my tour guides took me was to an incredible restaurant to have clams. Seafood is super huge in Virginia Beach, and clams are definitely a specialty. The place that we went had all different types of clams that came from all over the East Coast, and also all different types of ways to prepare them. I absolutely loved trying the different types of seafood, and I thought it was a really great experience to be able to see how people in the area kind of laid back and ate clams, the way that in Buffalo, we lay back and eat chicken wings. While we were walking through the city, we saw all different kinds of murals. Some of them seemed kind of historic and had to do a little bit more with Norfolk or possibly the military. And then some of them had to do with just sort of pretty set scenes and sunsets and things that maybe you would just find pleasing to the eye. So Virginia Beach's water is kind of tinted brown, and that seems a little weird, but it's not. There's actually iron in the water. And wait a second, why don't you figure it out? How is it that iron in the water would turn the water slightly brown tinted? If you can figure that out, put it in the comments below because there's something kind of scientific that's involved with that process. Virginia Beach is also famous for a lot of festivals. One of them is called the Neptune Festival, which happens in the fall. And if you walk down the boardwalk in Virginia Beach, you'll see this gigantic statue of Neptune, like huge, bigger than any statue of Neptune I've ever seen before in my life. If you'd like to learn about the history of Neptune, the Greek god, go ahead to this website here or put something in the comments and let's see if we can start a conversation. But there's tons of festivals that Virginia Beach has, and maybe I'll be back in the summer to visit. Anyway, so now it's time to talk about the history of the area. The Chesapeake Native Americans were the first to live on the land that we now call Virginia Beach. The Spanish came through around 1520 and started poking around and doing some mapping, and the English came around afterwards. Sir Walter Raleigh was the first to put his feet on the area that we would know today as Virginia Beach. Sir Walter Raleigh. Why does Raleigh stick out in my head? If you can figure out why, put it in the comments below. Now, after Sir Walter Raleigh, there was a man named John White. Now, he actually hung around an area called Roanoke Island. Now, why this is interesting is because he ended up colonizing Roanoke Island with a bunch of people. They set up shop, they had houses, everybody was ecstatic to be living there. So pretty, right? Well, the entire area completely disappeared for absolutely no reason. To this day, they can't figure out why it was that there was an entire colony there and then it completely disappeared. So it's called the Lost Colony. The Lost Colony on Roanoke Island, which is very close to Virginia Beach. 1720, Virginia's governor decided to ask for a lighthouse to be built at Cape Henry. Now, if you want to take a look at the history of the lighthouse in general, you can go ahead to this website here. But just to give you a brief overview, lighthouses are pretty important in history because ships needed to be able to understand when it was that they were getting close to shore. And the only way that they would be able to know is because they would be able to see the light. So without a lighthouse, they crash right into the shore. And that's pretty important when you're talking about an area that is pretty much surrounded by water. So the lighthouse is actually the official symbol for Virginia Beach. The lighthouse started to be built, I think, a little bit after 1720, but it needed to be halted around 1774 because of the Revolutionary War, and it was finally completed in 1791. So if you do the math, 1791 minus 1720 means an awful lot of years for that one lighthouse to be built. That's kind of why it's so famous. So this video was an absolute blast to make. First and foremost, because I had incredible tour guides and got a chance to eat incredible food that was recommended to me by people who live in the area. Next is going to be where you voted for me to go in Washington, D.C. And after that, Algeria and Antarctica.